Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. We're coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. I'm Charlene Benedict for the Newsfirst team.
A very good evening. I am Rahna Farooq. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Writ petition filed challenging the citizenship of Gotabaya Rajapaksa dismissed by the Court of Appeal. Chamal Rajapaksa places deposit for presidential election. Symbol of sworn to represent Sajid Premadasa. Bonds placed for the election. Cost incurred for the presidential election estimated to be 4.5 billion rupees. Elections Commission impose strict regulations when obtaining approval to hand over state sector appointments. Strict action to be taken against government officials who promote politicians. Price of a cylinder of gas decreased.
The Court of Appeal dismissed the writ petition filed challenging the dual citizenship of presidential candidate of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Gotabaya Rajapaksa. The decision of the three-judge bench was unanimous. We now join Newsfirst Zulfiq Farzan for the details.
Thank you, Rahna. Now, the bench comprising of Justices Yasantha Khodagoda, Arjuna Obesekara and Mahinda Samyawardhan unanimously decided to dismiss the writ application which was filed with the Court of Appeal seeking a stay order on accepting Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna presidential candidate and former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa's Sri Lankan citizenship. Now, that means Rajapaksa will be able to hand over in his nominations on Monday for the presidential election. Now, this writ application was filed by Professor Chandagupta Tenuwara and activist Gamini Biyangoda. Now, in their petition, they claimed that the dual certificate, the dual citizens certificate issued to Gotabaya Rajapaksa back in 2005 was invalid. Now, the petitioners claim that the certificate was issued by former President Mahinda Rajapaksa in 2005, who is also the sixth respondent in this writ petition. They say that it was issued by Mahinda Rajapaksa at a time when he did not have the powers to do so, and at a time when a cabinet and the secretaries ceased to exist. Now, however, making submissions today and late yesterday, President's Counsel Ramesh Silva, who was appearing for Gotabaya Rajapaksa, as well as President's Counsel Gamini Marapana, who was appearing for Mahinda Rajapaksa, presented facts to claim that the president in fact exercises the executive powers once he is elected into office, and therefore he has the right and the power to issue the dual citizenship certificate to Gotabaya Rajapaksa. However, after presenting facts and taking all the facts into consideration, the court issued an order for all the counsels, including the respondents and the petitioners, to file their written submissions by 3:30 this afternoon, and then they would convene at 6 o'clock again in the evening to announce their decision, where a unanimous decision was announced by the three-judge bench led by Court of Appeal President Yasantha Khodagoda, noting that they dismissed the petition and there was no need to send any of the notices to any of the respondents.
පැහැදිලි වන්නේ කිසිම හරයක් කිසිම පදනමක් පැමිණිලිකරුවන්ගේ නඩුවට නොතිබුණු බවයි. ඒ හින්දා ඒක සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම විසකලා දැම්මා. මහජනතුමා දැන් චමල් රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයාත් නිර්වාචන අපේක්ෂකයෙක් විදිහට ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඔබතුමා පක්ෂ සභාපතිවරයා විදිහට මොකක්ද දක්වන අදහස? ඒක දැන් භාගයට අවශ්‍ය වෙන එකක් නෑ අපි. මේ තීරණය අනුව මේක තීරණය අනුව ඒක අවශ්‍ය නැහැ.
Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
Gotabaya Rajapaksa has defeated all of the obstacles put up against him and emerged victorious. The forces who attempted to obstruct him through court proceedings have been stopped. On the 7th, Gotabaya Rajapaksa is in the hands of the people of this country.
7 වෙනිදාට Gotabaya Rajapaksa මහත්මයා මේ රටේ ජනතාවට බාරයි. ඒක බෑකප් එකක්. ඒක ගැන කලබල වෙන්න එපා. අධිකරණයට අපි තිබ්බ
The faith that we placed in courts was strengthened today. The court has delivered a clear verdict without any division regarding the preliminary objections filed against this. The court delivered an unanimous verdict.
ඒකමතික තීරණයක් ලබා දුන්නා.
Parliamentarian Chamal Rajapaksa placed bonds for the presidential election as an independent candidate under the Sri Lanka Nidahas Podujana Sandhana today.
When inquired from the chairman of the National Elections Commission, Mahinda Deshapriya said Chamal Rajapaksa placed his deposit as the presidential candidate of the Sri Lanka Nidahas Podujana Sandhana. The Election Commission said this party was not an accepted political party. However, on the basis that an MP can contest a presidential election, Chamal Rajapaksa placed his deposit.
Minister Lakshman Kiriyalla expressed these views during a meeting held in Kandy today.
We would do no such thing. These things are done by civil organizations. What we want is to win this election. Gotabaya Rajapaksa is the easiest candidate to compete. If he competes in the elections, I consider this as an advantage for the UNP.
Now, while the petition filed against Gotabaya Rajapaksa was taken up at the Court of Appeal today, the SLPP presidential candidate engaged in religious observances at the Sri Dadimunda temple in Alutnura.
Subsequently, Gotabaya Rajapaksa engaged in religious observances at the Kadireshan Kovil in Kegal today. Subsequently, Gotabaya Rajapaksa obtained blessings from the Juma Mosque in Kegal and engaged in a cordial discussion with those present. Later, Gotabaya Rajapaksa engaged in religious observances at the St. Mary's Church in Kegal. He then visited the Sri Mahindodaya Viharya in Vavaladeniya.
The opposition leader.
I think the independence of the judiciary was displayed well today. The confidence that we placed in the judiciary was shown today.
That
was done in the case that there were...
even if Gotabaya Rajapaksa comes or even if Chamal Rajapaksa comes, we can't stop it from being ruled by the family. There are 30 in the cabinet. 6 out of the 30 say that 20% of it is in the same family. But we know in the previous government there were only 3, Basil, Chamal and Mahinda Rajapaksa. 75% of the government's budget was taken by these 3. How would it be if 6 out of 30 came? 95% of the budget will be taken by that family. But today, it is a fight between the powerful and the small man, between the landlord and the poor. The fight of the underprivileged class of society is based in our camp. Those who vote for the Pohotua are the ones who support the landlords. The people who vote for Sajid support the poor man in this country. This group wants the underprivileged class to emerge in this country.
දුප්පත් මිනිහට තමාගේ පන්ති ජයග්‍රහණය කරවන්න තමාගේ අරගලය ජයග්‍රහණය කරන්න කැමති කණ්ඩායම. අද අපිට තේරෙනවා ඔය වර්ධන සියලු දේ පිටිපස්සේ ඉන්නේ.
We can clearly understand that it is a political force that is behind all of these strike actions. The people do not have a train to travel in. These trade union actions are clearly done for political needs to inconvenience the general public of this country. If they can close down schools for their political needs, if they can continue a teachers and principal strike action for days, and if they can close down universities and destroy the education of the future generation of this country, and if they can force the commuters in trains to fight for their lives every day, if they can force soldiers who sacrifice their limbs to this country to protest in the rain for their political needs, then I tell you that there is nothing they cannot do.
The Supreme Court rejected the petition filed by former Mayor of Galle, Metseri De Silva, seeking an order to prevent the presidential election from being held.
The petition, which was filed yesterday, was called before the three-member judge panel consisting of Vijit Malalgoda, G. Padman Surasena and Gamini Amarasekara. The attorney representing the petitioners requested the court to grant permission to withdraw the petition as they do not hope to continue with it. The panel rejected the petition and warned not to ridicule the judiciary.
The case was filed yesterday. Metsiri De Silva was our goal organizer. The cases were filed without ours and the President's knowledge. We then asked him to withdraw the petition immediately because this court case could have been a huge issue for the presidential election. The President considered all of these factors and called me to ask the MP to withdraw the petition. Metsiri De Silva withdrew the petition as per the request made by the President.
Meanwhile, a majority of SLFP organizers who gathered in Colombo today said if the Sri Lanka Freedom Party is to support the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna in the upcoming presidential elections, it must be carried out under certain conditions.
President Maithripala Sirisena met with SLFP district organizers this afternoon at the President's official residence in Colombo. The meeting commenced at 12:30 this afternoon and lasted for nearly 3 hours. Subsequently, the General Secretary of the SLFP and several others expressed their views to the media. If the SLFP is to support the SLPP, all of our organizers are of the stance that certain conditions must apply. They also stressed that the symbol should be changed. No, there is no legal issue. We solved the issue with the National Elections Commission. We can hand over nominations after changing the symbol. There is no legal issue at all. Discussions between the SLFP and the SLPP were successful. They have accepted all proposals that were submitted by our party. We also presented the constitution of the Sri Lanka Nidahas Podujana Alliance. We received a letter today stating that the SLPP had accepted this. However, the SLPP is yet to submit a response to that letter that was sent by President Sirisena. Meanwhile, during a media briefing today, SLFP MP Tilanga Sumatipala expressed the following views regarding his party's arrangement to form an alliance with the SLPP. There are 24 hours left. By tomorrow evening, our Central Working Committee will be able to reach a final decision. We will reach a final decision after analysing all information regarding the presidential election. Both parties have agreed to contest under the symbol of the chair during future proceedings. There will be a general and provincial council election in the future. So we will have to think about the presidential election on a separate note.
Deposit for UNP presidential candidate Minister Sajith Premadasa was placed at the Election Commission today under the swan symbol representing the New Democratic Front.
The deposit was placed by General Secretary of the New Democratic Front Sharmila Pereira and non-cabinet minister Ajit P. Pereira and Sujiva Sena Singha. He's a clean Sri Lankan. Sajith Premadasa does the right thing at the right time with the right team. So here's the right team. We placed bonds today. We are hoping to make Sajith Premadasa the president of all. We have the required strength, opportunity and luck to do that.
ශක්තියක් වරමත් වාසනාවක් තියෙනවා.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂය පොහොට්ටුවට සහාය දෙන්න යනවා. ඒක අවාසියක් නේද?
ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂ.
We do not do politics based on the stance of the SLFP. We only engage in traditional politics. We already have an alliance. So if we receive additional support, that's a bonus for us.
ධනයක් තිබෙනවා. ඒ වගේම ඉතින් වැඩිපුර සහායක් අපිට ලැබුණොත් ඒක බෝනස්. සෙනග බලන්න ඔබතුමාලේ.
Come and see the crowd on the day of nominations. We will visit the Temple of the Tooth on the 8th at 8:30 in the morning. And on the 10th, come to Golface, count the crowd and let us know who is going to win.
ගණන් කරලා අපිට කියන්න කවුද දිනන්නේ කියලා. ඒ වගේම ලංකාවේ දේශපාලන ඉතිහාසයේ විශාලතම රැළිය අපි පවත්වනවා 10 වෙනිදා ගෝල්ෆේස් පිටියේ.
දැන් එජාපේ ජනාධිපති වර්ණ තුනකදීම හංසයා කුලියට ගත්තා. මේ පාර කුලි පදනම
හංසයා කියන්නේ මුළු රටම එකතු කරන ලකුණ. හංසයා කියන්නේ මේ රටේ ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදයේ විශ්වාස කරන දූෂණයට විරුද්ධ රට සංවර්ධනය කිරීමට අවංක කැපවීමක් තියෙන සියලු දෙනාම එකතු කරන ලකුණ. ජය ලකුණ හංසයා. අනිත් එක මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මහත්තයා බය ලකුණත් හංසයා.
You said that we gave away the symbol of swan on rent, but our party isn't a party like that. I got around 18 offers. We gave this to the winning faction.
The National Elections Commission spoke about the increase in the number of presidential candidates at a media briefing held today.
According to my knowledge, one candidate had placed bonds this morning as well. So the number of candidates currently stands at 22. We think that this number will increase to over 25. The situation will exhaust the officers in charge of the polling station, the Grama Seva officers who prepare the polling stations and the counting officers. One of these candidates can send 2 polling agents to the polling station. If the number of candidates are 25, then that will mean 50 representatives. 5 representatives per candidate at the counting stations, that is 125. We must assign at least 75 for the counting if there are 125 representatives. We will also have to find a hall that can accommodate 200 people. The largest counting centres in Colombo are at Royal College and DS Nayaka College. It is about 30 to 25 classes. We cannot ask them to limit the number of representatives. It is their democratic right as per the provisions of the Act. And all 25 candidates are contesting with the hope of winning the election.
The chairman of the Election Commission also spoke about the violation of election laws and the laws on election propaganda.
We have asked everyone to seek approval regarding appointments. Also, we have asked them to consult us on all of the state events that are being held. The main point that we have highlighted is that at events that are of a political nature, no election propaganda activities can be done. Reduce the participation of politicians as much as possible. At an event where a certain politician must attend, it must be the tradition in the country to not only invite a politician from one party, but to invite others representing other parties as well. We told them directly that if one politician is being garlanded, the other politicians must be garlanded as well. If in any way during one of these events, if something political takes place, we will not be punishing the politicians. The state sector officials will be held responsible for violating our orders. There is an issue on political cutouts and posters. We requested the candidates of all parties that handed in nominations to willingly remove their cutouts, banners and posters. If these are not removed from the day that the nominations are accepted, it is a punishable offence. The law will be strictly enforced against the people who put up these banners after the day for nominations.
Journalists questioned the chairman on the estimated expenses for the presidential election.
We will definitely be needing additional funds. We thought it would be about 4 billion rupees or even 4.5 billion rupees. But it could increase from 4 billion to 5 billion rupees.
UNP presidential candidate Sajith Premadasa met members of the JSS or the Jatika Sevaka Sangamaya today.
The meeting was held at the Sirikota UNP headquarters. Several ministers of the United National Party and other UNP representatives were present at the meeting. I cannot simply wait without working. I receive oxygen when I am among the people. I will not privatize government institutions during my era. I will turn non-profit companies into profitable companies. I will not sell 1 inch of this country. I am well aware that some people cannot tolerate what I am saying now. Mahinda Rajapaksa got involved in the veterans' protest in Fort because he was scared that I will provide solutions to the matter. They know what will happen if I interfere. Mahinda Rajapaksa is the one behind this protest. He is the one who creates conflicts between the labourers. I would like to ask them to stop these kinds of activities and to fight with me face to face.
A public rally under the patronage of leader of the Janatha Vimukti Peramuna Andra Kumara Desanayake took place in Alpitia today.
The public rally took place under the theme Gama Hadanna Apita Denna Yanna.
Came out of the Rajapaksa regime stating he was not given a chance to work. He said that the Rajapaksa regime are taking 80% of the budget. But it is different in the UNP. The entire country saw how the UNP presidential candidate Sajith Premadasa received presidential candidacy. He is the son of Ranasinghe Premadasa of Keselwatta. The entire nation witnessed how Sajith Premadasa received the presidential candidacy.
The railway trade union action has still not been called off. Now, yesterday, railway services were gazetted as issuing an extraordinary gazette yesterday. The president declared railway services as an essential service. For a detailed update of the current situation, we now join Chaturanga Hapwarachi from our newsroom. Chaturanga, what is exactly going on? The general public of this country are wondering day in and day out on how they are going to travel to work, how they are going to go. What is happening?
Manipulate the system, be it for political reasons, be it for other benefits. They have been able to manipulate the system to actually putting in danger the lives of a lot of people who travel to work and get back home using the railway system. We are joining you against a backdrop where railway services have been made an essential service in the country. A gazette has been issued, an essential service has been named, and we are also joining you against a backdrop where still people are finding it difficult and they have to face absolute risks to get to their workplaces and get back home after they are done. Now, that is the premise that I'm trying to set before we delve deep into this topic. We will see the situation today before we speak further.
Notification declaring railway services an essential service was issued by President Maithripala Sirisena last night. Commuters were inconvenienced due to the strike action today as well. Attempts made by Newsfirst to contact the chairman of Railway Drivers Association was proved futile. However, trade unions of the superintendent said despite railway services being declared an essential service, they will continue with their strike action until their demands are met.
Now, if you are active on social media, if you use WhatsApp or Facebook, I'm sure at one point in your life you may have received a video clip of people on trains in neighboring countries in the region. People hanging on, latching on and getting on top of trains to get from one location to the other. That was, however, not the case in Sri Lanka for a long time until right now. You just saw how people are latching on to, hanging on to and getting on top of trains to get to their places of work and get back home. Now, they are facing a threat to their life. This is a very high-risk situation, and we have to understand that the security and the safety of all of these people who travel on these trains are at risk. Now, against this backdrop, something interesting happens. We decide to bring the two trade unions representing the faction that is for the strike action and the faction that is against the strike action to come here to this very same location and have a debate about the reason as to why they're carrying out this protest and the strike action. To our dismay and to our amazement, here too, they could not, in fact, lay out the foundation as to why the strike action was going on. Against such a backdrop, we see and we have reports to say that people in the management also are to a certain degree involved or letting these strike actions happen for the same political reasons that is being laid out by people who are connected to this. The people of this country are now very clearly aware of what is going on. The people of this country are very aware as to whether these strike actions are being done because there is an actual reason or whether these are being done because there is a presidential election in the corner and that there is political mileage that can be achieved through these strike actions. Now, from time to time, we have been trying to reach the Railways General Manager of Railways, to get his comments with regard to the situation that the people are facing in this country, the commuters are facing in this country. Now, the statement that was made by the GMR initially, to a certain degree, is not a statement even a bus conductor who is in charge of one single bus with 52 seats would make. What he said was the people should take the responsibility or face the risk if they are deciding to go in trains that are overpopulated. Now, the problem comes back to the first situation, where the fact that the people are going through this situation is because of the strike action launched by these people. Now, let's leave all of that aside. We today too tried to reach the GMR and to ask him, after this essential service has been named, after railway services was named an essential service, what is going to be the next step? Initially, it was said that 20 trains will be in operation today, but however, we have received reports that only 17 trains were in operation today. When we reached the GMR's office, there were barricades that had been put up and we were not able to actually talk to the GMR and get his reaction. This is what happened there. Let's have a look.
Chaturanga, of course, in the past we have seen when certain trade unions launch strike actions, or when people, the general public, people from the general public fight for what they want and fight for certain demands. For example, a simple example is the protest launched by the soldiers, the disabled soldiers, demanding for certain things. We saw the general public coming and supporting them. You've been reporting on field on this matter. Do you see the general public coming and supporting these people? And what sort of a fate awaits these railway members of these railway trade unions once they get back to wherever they're working?
Shalan, now again, this brings, you're asking a very good question, and this brings us to an interesting place, because Shalan, the people understand very well as to what is going on in the country. Sri Lankans are very well aware of what is going on, and even as you mentioned, the veterans protest that was held in Fort, people were aware as to what was happening. Now there was this person with the king coconut water, things like that. The people very quickly picked up on those, and again the people are now coming forward and saying these are political reasons, and that is quite evident through the actions that are taken by the GMR, the railway employees, and everyone who is involved in this. Now, this brings us to the other portion of the problem, Shalan and Rakhna, because when we are talking about the railway services, we have to now keep in mind that railway services have been named an essential service in the country. It is an essential service. Now, when that happens, when the president of the country, the executive of the country decides that it is an essential service, then the situation changes. Now, notices have been set to asking for all the employees to report back to work, because all the the holidays have been cancelled, because it is now an essential service. Against this backdrop, we reached out to a lawyer, a legal expert, and asked him what would happen if these employees do not report back to work when railways has been named as an essential service. This is what he had to say.
When it is an essential service, the legal issues surrounding the functionality of the employees is the next problem. What is that? Under the law, after railway services were named as an essential service, if an employee does not report or obstruct someone from reporting to work through an act or by word obstruct the employees, it will be an offence punishable with a jail term. This could also include a fine, a jail term, and if the judge, in his opinion, thinks that this person is acting in a manner that obstructs this public service while knowingly intending to do so and is seriously affecting the general public, no matter who this person is, the judge can confiscate all his assets. If anyone fails to pay the fine, further action can be taken against them under this act. No employee can, by virtue of him being a member of a trade union, attempt to justify his action of not reporting to work or obstructing the activities or obstructing another employee from reporting to work.
Now we all understand that the people who use the train to get to their places of work and get back home are people in the working class who go in the morning and come back in the evening. Now, from time to time throughout the railway strike action, we've seen how the people are now using the locomotive services to get to that location that they desire. They're hanging on to their trains. As I said earlier, they're facing a huge risk. Now the question arises, against the backdrop where the president of the country has decided that railway is an essential service, what will happen if one person is injured or loses his or her life as a result of the strike action? who will be held accountable? Is it going to be the GMR? Is it going to be the individual trade unions that are responsible? Is it going to be the respective person who is in charge of that particular train that he or she or a person is injured in or loses his or her life? Now that is the big problem here. No one seems to be being held accountable in terms of the problems that is faced by the people. Again, we are coming to a situation where the railway services have been named an essential service. Now, you heard the lawyers saying that legal action can be taken. What if a breadwinner of a family, who is most importantly the people who are traveling in these trains, they are probably breadwinners, and what if a breadwinner is injured or loses his or her life? Then what happens? The whole family unit of that person will be affected as a result of these political decisions that are taken, these decisions that are taken based on political whims and fancies. Again, people, if you know someone who is involved in the railway sector, if you know someone who is an employee in the railway sector and that person is not reporting work, you can ask the question right now, what will happen to someone if he or she is injured? What will happen to someone if they lose their lives? What will happen to their family? Those are big questions that should be raised at this moment, because the government has now taken action, the Essential Services Gazette has been issued, and still we see this problem persisting. The families of these people who are carrying out this strike action should also be aware of something, and that is, when an essential service gazette has been issued, even their personal assets can be affected, because that is the decision taken by the judiciary. The judiciary can take action here. You are actually in one way not letting the government function, and that is an oath that every government officer, every state sector official in this country has to adhere to. That oath that you take when you take up the job, and if you are not in accordance with that oath and the statement that you make, then you are putting the government at risk, thereby putting the country at risk, and we are now witnessing the results of your action. So you should be held accountable if you are not reporting to work, even after an essential service gazette has been issued. That is all we have in terms of this railway strike action today, but we will continue to report this story to you, and we will continue to bring the accurate figures and the accurate facts before you, so that the general public is aware of what is happening exactly in this country. Charlan, it's over to you.
Thank you very much, Chaturanga, for that comprehensive update. Moving on, in more local news, Litro Gas has announced that they will reduce their prices effective midnight today.
The Consumer Affairs Authority said the price of a 12.5 kilogram domestic gas cylinder will be reduced by 240 rupees within the Colombo district. Accordingly, its new price will be 1,493 rupees. The price of a 5 kilogram Litro gas cylinder will be reduced by 95 rupees within the Colombo district, which brings its price down to 598 rupees. A Litro gas cylinder of 2.3 kilograms will be reduced by 30 rupees, bringing the price down to 289 rupees. The price of a 12.5 kilogram domestic gas cylinder will be reduced to 1,482 rupees, a reduction of 251 rupees in all other districts. According to the Consumer Affairs Authority, they made this reduction based on an agreement they arrived at with the Litro Gas Lanka.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight. To follow details of these stories and more, you can log on to our website, www.newsfirst.lk. I'm Charlan Benedict for the Newsfirst team.
For the Newsfirst team, I'm Rahna Farooq. Thank you for watching. Have a pleasant night.